Welcome back, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. Your Kentucky Wildcats, 10.5-point underdogs going into Knoxville at the Food City Center, which, we got to clown that just a little bit in itself. Cats get the win, 78-73, third straight win in Knoxville. Jacob, we kind of laid out the blueprint of how this team needed to win this game if they were going to. Obviously, you and I both had predicted losses for this game. But I think the blueprint that we laid out for this team getting that road win pretty much came straight to fruition, just how we said.
Yeah, you said what, 40 combined from Amador, Brea, and Robinson, and
At 45.
they got it.
Yep.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Excellent game. Right after Saturday, where I said I thought Pope had probably his worst performance as a head coach so far this year. I thought it was excellent. You roll in there, no real point guard listed on the roster other than Travis Perry, and you find ways to handle the best defense in the SEC, best defense maybe in the nation. And Kentucky still made some mistakes, made some turnovers, but they hit enough shots, and defensively the game plan was perfect. You let Tennessee shoot from behind the arc as much as they want. If Tennessee, goes out and shoots 30% from behind the arc, you shake their hand and you move on. But, Pope wasn't letting them beat us inside, and he was letting Ziegler and whoever else take as many as they wanted outside. And just excellent game plan, and another huge win for this team, 6-1 against the top 15 in the country. I haven't looked up the stats, but that might be more top 15 wins than we had the last 5 years combined.
It might be. Just the strength of the SEC. We're obviously getting so many more cracks at it. And with the out-of-conference schedule that we had, and we've just had so many chances, and we've capitalized on a lot of those too. We can just go down the list of all the guys that played really well in this game. Let's go ahead and start it off. Somebody's perfect from the field. What about Kobe Brea? It was my MVP pick. You could go him or Amari probably for MVP in this game. Kobe Brea, 5 of 5 from the field, 3 of 3 from the three-point line. He shot his worst at the free throw line, even though he shot 7 free throws. Man, this really just kind of showed me that Kobe can score in more ways than just being that three-point shooter. Obviously, I'm not comparing him to Devin Booker, but just size and shooting ability. That's kind of what he gives you. At least Devin, while he was at UK, obviously Devin's turned into a terrific pro who can score at every facet. But what do you think about Kobe Brea giving you 18 points in this game?
He was awesome. Everything that we've kind of said we wanted to see from him. We wanted to see him shoot the ball more, be a little more aggressive. This guy has shot on the year 17 free throws, and he had 7 last night. So before that, he nearly doubled his free throw attempts, just with his aggressiveness. And I can't say enough good things about him. This is what we've really been asking for, and we said it was going to take one of those performances from him. And another guy that could have won MVP was Jackson Robinson. I think he won the ESPN version of it. But 3 guys you really needed it from. They come out, they give it to you, and Kobe was, to your point, just so much more than just a 3-point shooter. That pass he had to Amari, where Amari got it off right at the shot clock there down the stretch. That was some playmaking we haven't seen from him this year, and it came at a crucial time. Obviously you're down ball handlers, and I thought he played the role perfect.
Let's be real here. Who would you rather? Would you rather win the Cats Talk Pod MVP or the ESPN MVP of the game? It's obviously there's no debate in that one. But just like you mentioned, Kobe Brea gave you more than just scoring in this game. 3 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and a pretty crucial block. Played pretty solid defensively as opposed to what we're used to. Obviously, he still has his defensive lapses. But for a guy who is 6'6", he really kind of put everything on display, kind of put the team on his back, something we haven't really seen outside of the Florida game where he made 7 3-pointers.
Yeah, and he also had, I think, unbiasedly a pretty clean block that they decided to award some free throws for. That was great one-on-one defense. I think he kind of poked it away from which guy was that? That was the big white dude, Phillips, and he kind of pokes it away, and then Phillips gets it back, goes back up, and Kobe blocks it, and they call a ridiculous foul. We'll talk about the refs a little later, but yeah, I mean, Kobe did everything right. I thought by far, I mean, this in the Florida game, I mean, I know he made more threes in the Florida game, but I thought he overall brought more to the table last night.
I feel like this was a better game for him in general. Obviously, 7 threes in a game where we score 106 points. It's going to be what we talk about mostly. But just with how many guys we were down, I mean, can we even really say Andrew Carr didn't even play a full 2 minutes, and when he was on the floor, had an instant turnover and just
You could tell.
Yeah, you could tell. I think we could probably dive a little bit deeper into that on why he was even available or even came in for those 2 minutes. But like we said, Kobe gave you so much outside of just that 3-point shooting. And talking about somebody who gave you a lot more than just scoring. What about Amari Williams? This kid's been slandered every time. Every time it gets slandered. And I want the respect to be as loud as the disrespect has been for Amari Williams. He has 10 points, 15 rebounds. If he doesn't rebound, this team's just not getting a rebound. We'll talk a little bit further in depth about Brandon Garrison once the show continues a little bit later. But 24 minutes, 15 rebounds, 3 of 5 from the floor, and 4 of 6. Don't get me wrong, it's only 67% at the free throw line. But you and I see his free throw. We see the mechanics there. He's got a little bit of a Shaq take to it where he goes one hand. And, I mean, I'll take 67% from the line from him. I can't say enough about Amari Williams. Gives you 4 assists, brings the ball up as your primary ball handler. I mean, he was more of the point guard in this game than maybe even Ortega and Jackson.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about, my frustrations with Amari as of late because I mean he played phenomenal last night. I mean, I told you after the A&M game, like if this is the version, and this version was very similar to the A&M version, like if you're getting that from Amari and Jackson Robinson, then this team is a Final Four contender. So like all my frustrations with Amari are purely just times that his motor's on and times it's off. I mean, the guy is obviously our best big man. He's by far our best rebounder. The playmaking as a 5 is abnormal. So, I mean, the guy is fantastic. And again, like if this is the version we're getting from him, and you can tell me we're going to get it for 6 games in March, this team can win a national title. He's that good, and he adds that much to it. And how about him bringing the ball up the floor? Like there's times it wasn't like Vandy where you got to worry about a point guard trying to force him the ball at the top of the key because he was getting it beyond half court and taking it the rest of the way. Part of that was Tennessee just kind of letting us do that. But I'm not going to say one bad word in regards to last night about Amari Williams. He was phenomenal.
Now, let me be clear. When I'm talking about people being negative about Amari Williams, I'm not directing that at you. That's more of the national talking heads and other people around Kentucky athletics. Seems like he is the one. Him and Jackson obviously catch the most flaws and strays when it comes to, not taking this team to another level or when this team does lose. It seems like the burden usually falls on one of those two. But he was great in this game. And, talking about somebody else who's been consistently great, Ainsley Almanor. Wasn't his best offensive game in this one. Gave you another 4 threes, 4 of 7 from 3 in this game. Didn't rebound as well as he had been lately. Gives you 2 rebounds, 3 assists. I mean, Ainsley Almanor is a guy who, maybe 3-4 weeks ago was your 9th guy off the bench. I mean, this is more than you could have ever anticipated, especially just 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to the beginning of the year, he was one of the guys I was kind of, mentioning, hey, he may not even, play very much towards the end of the year. He's going to be probably your 10th, 11th man and, 9th man, whatever, and barely seeing the floor. And then obviously I doubled down on it right at the end of conference play and said or non-conference play and said I didn't think he could play in the SEC. I mean, the guy is just, he's money. I feel as confident as whether it's him, Jackson, and Brea, man, when one of the 3 of them shoot it, I'm confident it's going in. Ainsley, not his best defensive game, but I mean, even though he's not the best defender and, he only had 2 rebounds in this game, I still feel like he's a guy that is always going to kind of give you a lot of energy. You see it more so when he's coming off the bench when Carr's playing, but like he'll come in and he's diving after a loose ball or finding a way to force a steal when the team needs it. He's just you can tell he's a fifth-year player. He gets it. He was ranked 340th coming into the portal this year, and God, I'm so happy Pope got this guy. And this team would look completely different without him. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but I mean he's earned it, and he's earned this moment, and he's obviously just killing it. 4 of 7. I love it. I love every second of it.
Yeah, and we talked about he might just be that glue guy. How we kind of
Yep.
thought Kerr Kriisa was. Obviously, in Kerr's absence, Ansley's kind of stepped up, and even more so with Andrew Carr's injury. Ansley has stepped up and given you almost everything you need. Obviously, he is a little undersized, especially considering he's running the 4 a lot of times. But, I mean, he's still throwing his body out there. He's definitely still one of our high-effort guys. I mean, outside of maybe Trent Noah, I don't know another guy who's going to dive on the floor for a loose ball before Ansley Almanor. I mean, speaking of a guy who, really giving it his all, most consistent guy on the team, 20 straight games, every game this season with 10-plus points. Otega Owe in this game, 14 points, 6 rebounds, 4 of 11 shooting from the field. I mean, what more can we say about Otega besides him just being Mr. Consistent?
That's just the perfect way to sum him up. After last night, maybe tough as hell after that dunk, and he falls and lands on his face and shoulder and just bounces right back up. And he 6 of 9 from the free throw line, but he hit the last 4 of the game to ice it. The guy's consistent. Another guy that just makes winning plays. He just finds a way to be involved, whether it's on the defensive side or the blow by for a big dunk, whatever it is. It just seems like he's always kind of there to make that consistent winning basketball play. And man, I love this team, and a lot of it comes from Otega, and he's the guy that can beat his man off the dribble. 4 of 11. I thought a couple of those he probably went to the rim and got fouled and didn't get a call. While we're talking about him, can we talk about that offensive foul call? That's like one of the worst calls I've seen. I know he hit the guy in the face, but I mean he got mugged for 4 seconds before that moment, and then to call it on him and then go to the monitor and see if it was flagrant was just mind-boggling.
I'm more upset about the fact that anytime somebody gets somewhat touched, where they're just going to the monitor regardless. I feel like any chance that they have, they're going to see if it should be a flagrant at some point in time.
Before we get out of here tonight, that's going to be my rant at the end. When I said I'll talk about the refs later, I got a lot to talk about the refs and the monitor, but we'll get to that later.
I can't wait to hear it. We'll leave a little bit on that cliffhanger there. But, I mean, just going off of just that foul call in general, anytime, the arm gets extended, especially if it's anywhere near somebody's face. We saw that they got called with Jackson where looked like he just got regular slapped in the face. But it was still, Jackson gave it a little bit of a selling job, a little acting job there.
How about the Tennessee fans?
I really wasn't that upset with the referees, especially at least in this game. The monitors kill me, but other than that.
Yeah. I wasn't either, but I do think that that was one of the worst calls. I mean, he was getting mugged for 4 seconds trying to bring the ball up the floor, and then as soon as he puts his hand up, all right, yeah, then we're going to blow it. But, yeah, I mean, I won't complain too much other than some of the monitor time.
Yeah, the monitor time is something that's a whole nother story. But, another guy, I just mentioned him, he got slapped in the face during this game.
Yep.
Can't think of a better transition than that. 17 points for Jackson Robinson. Wasn't very efficient, at least just from the floor. 6 of 16. It was 4 of 9 from the three-point line. 1 of 2 from the free throw line. 4 rebounds. Gave you an assist and a block. It was nice to see Jackson do some of the things that, we've kind of harped on him doing outside of just scoring. Even though in this game he was, mainly a scorer. 4 of 9 from three-point range. I'll take that 10 times out of 10. He is starting to shoot a little bit more of those mid-range jumpers that I'm still not in love with. But every now and again, I'll live with it.
Yeah. I thought he played really well. Obviously, 6 of 16, that doesn't scream as like a efficient game or anything like that, but I didn't really feel like there were ever moments he was taking bad shots. I mean, he did have a turnaround jumper that he shot from the mid-range that he missed, but he also made one earlier in the game, so I'm not going to kill him. I thought defensively he played probably as well as he's played all year. Sakai Ziegler's a very fast guard, and he sagged off a little bit and used his length to kind of bother him from behind the arc. And defensively, like I said, I just thought by far his best game. And then there were some moments, especially in the first half, when Ziegler was guarding him. Jackson just used his size to kind of get over him, and he came out firing. He made two of his first three threes, and he just kind of had that look in his eye, man. And the guy, I know he played well against A&M at home, but the guy's just kind of a road dog. When those road environments are loud, we worried a little bit after the Duke game because he, didn't look like he was ready for that moment there in Madison Square Garden with all the fans, but he came back, and in this SEC, when the environment's the loudest, he's the guy that I feel like is ready to play.
Yeah, and I think, I kind of mentioned this earlier in the season when we were talking about, trying to tinker with these lineups a little bit, maybe get Lamont and Jackson off the floor, not have them on the floor together. And I think you've seen him show up the best when he's not playing alongside Lamont, when he is able to enforce his way a little bit more, look for his shot more without having, Lamont clog up a little bit of lanes, especially as of late. Even though Lamont was shooting well from three earlier in the season, he's not shooting well currently. Obviously, he's out, especially with Ortega not shooting well recently too. This lineup just kind of gave him a little bit more room to operate with Kobe knocking down shots, Ansley knocking down shots. I feel like this is the lineup that he's going to succeed the best with because he can kind of be that guy where we really just don't have a point guard, but we have two combo guards that you can allow to handle the ball as long as we're not facing, crazy pressure, which you would think that's what was going to come from Tennessee, the number one defense in the nation until we came in there and put the most points on them that they've allowed this season. Now they're the second-ranked defense in the nation. Just kind of want to get your thoughts about, maybe not making a lineup change or anything like that, but tinkering with lineups more, especially because I wanted to get into something that's really been driving me nuts. These end of the first half runs that we're allowing, back-to-back games in this one, the Vandy game, 20-4 was the run right there. And then this game, Tennessee went on an 11-0 run, which really it felt like we had controlled the entire first half. And then to go into halftime down 3. I don't know how you were feeling at half. I wasn't feeling good because I thought we had played pretty well. And to go into the locker room down 3 had me a little concerned.
Yeah, I'm going to be 100%. I thought we were losing at halftime. I mean, just to close out so poorly. And again, it was almost just like effort. Like they played so well for 17 minutes and then just tedious little mistakes, turnovers, not rebounding, and you let Tennessee on an 11-0 run and all of a sudden you're down 3. I really did. I thought it was over. Thought we were losing. And then, to the guys' credit, they come out, start the second half. Next thing you know, you blink and we're back up 8. So, Pope, whatever he said to him at halftime obviously weren't. I did think Pope maybe went a little too long again without calling a timeout. Probably should have called one a little earlier, but just sloppiness for the last 3 minutes. And part of it was Tennessee obviously amped up their pressure at the end of each half, but still can't have that. You mentioned the one on Saturday to Vandy. That one was a lot worse, but still, you can't just go 3 minutes where you're just completely careless with the ball and not rebounding and not expect good teams to make you pay for it.
Yeah, completely agree. And it seems like a lot of those times it's those weird lineups that we see at the end of these halves that allow these runs. And it's really starting to show in the plus minus for a lot of these games. Like obviously for the Vandy game, it was Colin Chandler but he played very well in this game. Very good on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, didn't score, but I wanted that 3-pointer that he shot to go down. He kind of deserved it at that point, but gave you 2 rebounds. Played 15 minutes with only. If he would have played 15 minutes against Vandy, his plus minus might have been minus 100 with how bad he played against Vandy. Played really well in this game. It's good to see him get confidence, especially against a great SEC team, the best defensive team in the nation, sold out crowd. I think that's going to do a lot for Colin Chandler going forward, especially depending on how much time we're going to expect to miss with Lamont and Andrew Carr.
Yeah. Real quick, and I'll touch on Chandler. You talk about the plus minus. The difference in the two big men in this game is
I'm saying. This is
In
what
a
I've been
game,
saying.
yeah, in a game you win by 5, you have Amari with a plus 20, and you have Brandon Garrison playing 15 minutes and having a minus 16. Again, we've talked about it a million times. I know it doesn't tell all the story, but it definitely tells a story. And BG, I'm sure we'll get to a little later, but just another game not very good. Regarding Chandler, huge man. I mean, this team is so weird because it's like there's not a freshman out there that you would expect to 2 days before going to number 8 Tennessee, best defense in the country. 2 days before, he looks like he didn't belong on a D1 floor at any level. Horizon League, MAC, whatever it would be. Like, he didn't look like he belonged in D1 basketball at the time. And then he comes out and doesn't flinch at the number 8 team on the road when they're packed, they're jumping around, and he goes out and obviously doesn't light up the stat sheet by any means, but just ton of energy, ton of effort, and played really well and was your best player off the bench. I mean, I know Noah gave you some good minutes too, but just to have that switch in just 2 days' time is unreal.
And I kind of feel like outside of Otega Owe, that's been this entire team. It's been
Yeah.
a roller coaster what you get every single game. Like, we're getting ready to dive into Brandon Garrison, but there were some games where it looked like, I think I mentioned it maybe 3 weeks ago about playing him and Amari more and letting, Andrew Carr, when he does get healthy, kind of phase out a little bit. And he's taken a complete,
I remember.
180. Oh, the hand is up. The hand is up because, man, I really thought he was starting to come into his own. Well, let's go ahead and talk about how he played in this game. Like you said, only played 15 minutes, minus 16 on the plus minus. For Brandon Garrison to be the only big on the floor and in 16 minutes only get you 2 rebounds.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw it at the end of the first half. Amari didn't play. He got that second foul. And to Amari's credit, he didn't have another foul the entire game. I think Pope probably sat there and talked to him and said, hey, listen, man, this is how much of a difference you're making. They just went on an 11-0 run once I had to take you out for picking up the second foul. Granted, when they're going on an 11-0 run in a hostile environment, I think I trust Amari a little bit more to get him in there and get BG off the floor. But right now, BG's almost, if Carr was available and how well Ansley's playing, I would say he's almost unplayable. But with Carr's injury, I mean, he's got to get minutes.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of one positive is if you do tell me in 2-3 weeks, however long it is, before tournament play, that we're going to get Andrew Carr at 100%. I don't worry about it as much because of obviously how well Ansley's playing. I think you can play Carr a little more at the 5 here and there. But yeah, I mean, BG's been incredibly disappointing. I remember on our season recap, I was telling you guys, like, before the year, there were multiple mock drafts that had him early second round. Like, this was the guy that I said, I was like, he might be the one we're talking about this team doesn't have a first round draft pick. He might be the one that sneaks into it. He's got all the tools to do it. And as much as I get on Amari for effort, I mean, the criticism's got to be equally as loud, if not louder, for BG. I mean, there's just times where, to your point, there's zero impact on the game. And as a 6'10" big man and you're the only big man out there, it's inexcusable.
It really is, especially, I mean, his just lack of being able to, like, get on anybody when it comes to, allowing offensive rebounds. We allowed 18 offensive rebounds in this game, and I think maybe 4 of those were just on that last possession, one of the last possessions of the game. Granted, this whole team catches like Deacle Shorts coached wide receivers. Shout out Deacle. Thanks for taking Dane Key and Hardly Gilmore. I'll get to that on another episode. But man, can we come down with a defensive rebound when times get clutch? Because it feels like nobody can grab the ball when needed.
Well, Tega had one hit right off his hands. Brea had one hit right off his hands. Both went out of bounds. That were
Even
extra
Amari
possessions.
did too, with how well he rebounded.
Yeah, I don't understand why this team at times just can't grab a ball. To transition to another player, I will tell you one guy that if there's a loose ball, he's going to come up with it, and that's Trent Noah. So maybe that was, we were crushing Pope for having Trent Noah in those last 2 minutes at Vandy and that defensive possession. Maybe he thought he's the only one that has the hands to actually, when the ball's there in front of him, to grab it. So, maybe we kind of jumped the gun on that one.
Trent's got sneaky size too. I mean,
Yeah.
even though he looks like he's like 6 years old out there, I mean, he's like 6'7", 6'8".
And he's
And
big. Like he's
that's what I'm saying. He's a thick guy, a
yeah.
thick boy out there. I mean, and how about the stones on him pulling
Oh,
up from
dude.
30 feet and just drilling?
STFU shot right there. They were. I mean, what they had cut it to 6 at that point, and I mean that was as loud as the arena was all night. And he from the logo just pulls it. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean it's the tale of the two Kentucky kids. Honestly, Trent Noah is rolling with all the confidence in the world in his shot and in his ability, and Travis, it seems, is like the exact polar opposite of what that was. And if you would have asked, I think both of us at the beginning of the season, which one did you expect to see more from? I don't think either one of us were expecting a lot from either of them, but it probably would have been Travis Perry by a pretty wide margin.
Yeah. I mean, outside of these last two, I still feel like Travis has given you, quite a bit. But I mean, it's just if you're not strong with the ball right now, you can't play against Tennessee. And it's not that like we got a lot of guys that are, but you got to be somewhat able to be strong with the ball. But Trent Noah also had one of the other biggest baskets of the game where he came up with that loose ball on the offensive side that was for a wide open layup. That was Tennessee makes a stop and just loose ball finds its way to Trent's hands and he lays it in. And Tennessee, that was another kind of just like deflator. So
And it seems like that was one of the only loose balls we were able to grab, especially when it comes to the second half. It felt like any 50-50 ball, it feels like with this team right now, is probably 70-30 or 80-20. It's like throwing a jump ball up to T. Higgins. I'm taking
Yep.
T 80-20 in that. That's kind of what it feels like in the opposite for these Cats right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the exact number I gave the other night. 50-50 balls aren't so 50-50 with this group. But hey, whatever you got to do to find ways to win in Knoxville, I don't care if Tennessee came up with every offensive rebound. If you find a way to have them miss, whatever 34 3-pointers. So
Yeah,
I'll
let's
take
just
it.
go ahead and talk about some of the full team numbers in general.
Yeah.
We shot an even 50% from the floor, 50% from the 3-point line. Still, for as good a shooting as we're doing on the floor, we still can't make free throws. We shot 66% from the line. What about Tennessee and Rick Barnes? Man, I got so much respect for Rick Barnes and what he's done down in Tennessee. I mean, obviously, they're having no postseason success. That's just a Tennessee thing. But 45 threes for this team who can't really shoot that well. And thank you, Zakai Ziegler, for coming back on the floor in the second half and going 1 of 11 from 3-point range.
Yeah, and a lot of it speaks to Pope again, like just with that game plan. Hey, we're not going to let Ziegler and Lanier just beat us off the bounce. We'll sag off and let them shoot. Again, if they go out and shoot 35%, 40% from the 3-point line, you shake their hand, you move on, you hope to get them back in a couple weeks. But I mean, 45 threes. I don't even, has Alabama shot that many yet in a game this year? Like that is
That's the most
absurd.
ever
And
against Kentucky in colleges.
and I mean it was obviously the correct game plan. But Rick Barnes, I do want to thank him. We play Cal this weekend. I appreciate him doing his best Cal impression with just walking away with a timeout in his pocket, down 3. You have to have a bucket, and he, lets his guys take a horrendous look, and that was one Kentucky finally grabbed the defensive rebound on. So, thank you, Coach Barnes, for that one. You got us ready for Saturday.
Yeah, and obviously we're gonna have a whole nother episode on Saturday in the big game coming up. But how good does it feel to get this win? Because, man, having a 3-game
Huge.
slide going into Saturday would have just not been – wouldn't have been good. Wouldn't have felt good about the team going into this. I mean, obviously, all 3 of those losses would have been to ranked teams. But that's just the SEC. You got to win these games. Find a way to win this one because Cal's had a whole week to prepare.
Wow.
Not saying they're going to do it, but they have had a full week to prepare.
That's just a full week of Chen Coleman going to steakhouses and eat. All right, never mind. We'll talk about it later. We got a whole 45 minutes to do on that game, so I'll come back to it.
Yeah. We'll get to that one. I did want to talk about how about pulling out this game after the last made field goal we had was Kobe Brea's layup with 5 minutes and 20 seconds left in the game. How do you win a game not scoring a singular field goal in the last 5 minutes of regulation?
It's funny because after Vandy, I mentioned multiple stats where I'm like, if I tell you this before the game, you probably think we win, and we don't. If I tell you before the game at Tennessee, we don't make a field goal in the final 5 minutes and 24 seconds, and there's other stats to go along with it. Only 24 threes attempted,
Gave up
13
18 offensive
turnovers,
rebounds.
18 offensive rebounds. You probably think like, my God, we might have lost like 75 to 50. But yeah, I mean, just gritty performance, and I mean, it's becoming kind of often we go down to Knoxville as a double-digit underdog and walk away with a win when nobody's expecting it. But yeah, Rick Barnes is obviously a really good coach, but I think Mark Pope coached circles around him last night.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned, letting them live by the three and die by the three, especially Tennessee in this game, giving them that open three. I mean, that bit us just on Saturday with Vandy. Like you said, shake your hand, move on. I mean, they had three different big guys. I think they made a combined 5 threes together. So even in just back-to-back games, we've been on the reciprocating end of both ends of that spectrum. So it was good to see us come out, at least on this side, because I don't think either one of us are expecting the Razorbacks to go out and shoot a lot of threes.
No, but like also for this one, I mean, Vandy's probably a better offense than Tennessee, so I mean it is a little different, but just like with how bad this Tennessee offense is, I mean, you got to have the exact same game plan in a couple weeks when they roll into Rupp. I mean, if they make a ton, you just say it's not our night and you move on, but like this team doesn't score a lot of points against anybody, and Zakai Ziegler is going to continue to shoot them. And I mean, if you ask me what shot I want Tennessee ending up with at the end of the shot clock, it's a 3. I'd rather them have the 3 than Ziegler get to the lane and be able to create. So I thought it was an excellent game plan, and obviously it worked. Maybe it doesn't in 2 weeks, but I'm going to live with that.
Yeah, I mean, Igor Milicic was the only one who was able to knock down threes.
Yeah, and he banked one in.
Yeah, that's a whole. They almost banked in one from like the baseline. I mean, this is.
Yeah, I don't even know.
I don't know how they're getting these angles on some of these shots the opposing teams were playing. Luckily, that one didn't come back to bite us. Man, it's good to see this team get that win. I think you kind of see a little like stress relief from the team after the game. Everybody had smiles on their faces. Obviously, it was Amari's birthday, and what a better way to get just a double-double for the birthday boy. Beat Tennessee on the road and getting ready for what is technically your easiest game in probably like 3 to 4 weeks, but the one that's the most hyped up and the one that's most looked forward to all season.
Yeah, I'm not going to say you had to have it because, like, obviously we didn't expect to have it, but 3-game skid that's daunting. And then you kind of bring it into play where, like, if God forbid if everything went wrong to Saturday and you lose 4 straight going to Ole Miss on Tuesday, like, there was a world where like things could get really ugly and you don't even make the tournament. I mean, I think that was like less than like a 2% chance, but still, like it was out there. And then to come out and win this one, win it in the style you did, with the lineups you did, I mean, it's huge. To your point, it's just a huge relief. This team's right back on track. I'm back to picking us for number 9 at the end of the year and hanging a banner. So this was all I needed to see. But yeah, you couldn't lose 3 straight in the SEC. We were talking last pod about like there's just like where are the wins going to come from, because there's some really good teams, and to show you can beat one of the better teams without 2 of your best players, it's so important.
Yeah, and for the rest of the season, I think I'm just going to pick the Cats to lose because it seems like whenever I do that, that's showings.
Yeah.
And this one was just a game stylistically just didn't match up well for us.
Oh, no.
It was strength on strength, Tennessee's defense versus our offense. And with our offense having, 3 reliable, I don't know about reliable scorers, but 3 guys who can put the ball in the bucket. I mean, it just wasn't looking good. Obviously, we talked about that on the pre-show. But what a just a gutsy win. And hearing Go Big Blue chants in Knoxville, I don't know if you saw Jackson Robinson's smile on his face when he first heard it. Coach Cook said Coach
you
Pope
got
said he didn't hear it. I don't buy that.
You got Brea like pointing to his ear and like saying like a little louder, like dude, it was awesome. That I've been to that arena. I went the year with Tyler Eulis and Jamal Murray, and we lost. And to hear Rocky Top 87,000 times in the course of a 2.5 hour basketball game, like what I would have given to been able to chant "Go Big Blue" at the end of that game, but unfortunately we lost. Like those fans deserve it because like I think that that's actually outlawed in Guantanamo as a form of torture is to just they try to just play Rocky Top over and over again, and it's the most miserable thing you'll ever experience.
Especially for a program that's never been to a Final Four.
Oh my
Like, get
god.
to a Final Four first, and then you can start to play it a little bit more often.
All their fans on Twitter I saw yesterday during the day were talking about Kentucky's little brother and this and that. Like you can't lose multiple times at home as a double-digit favorite, and like
3 in
they've
a
done
row.
it two in the last. Well, they've lost three, yeah, but yeah, two of them as double-digit favorites. Like, just look at the percentage of double-digit home favorites that probably lose in college basketball. It's not a lot. Tennessee's done it 2 of the last 3 years.
It's insane to think about. I mean, whenever it feels like just in general, whenever we doubt this team the most, their
Sure.
backs are against the wall, they just continue to respond. And I think a lot of that, I mean, Ansley, I think, kind of signifies that almost more than anybody. I mean,
It's
the guy who's probably not supposed to be here, not supposed to be at the University of Kentucky, and here he is getting his time, getting his shine. I think I saw him on like the field of 68 right after the game. He was live with them. I mean, it's great to see a guy who, if you would have told him this time last year, hey, you're going to be scoring 12 points and taking down Tennessee on the road, getting an interview right after the game at the University of Kentucky, I couldn't imagine the smile on his face or how proud he would have been of himself to think of that.
absolutely, and like this team, it's just gonna signify like come March. I don't know if we're gonna have a clue what this team can do or is gonna do. I mean, you see it. We can lose to a team like Ohio State. We could probably lose to a mid-major team that's going to be a 12 seed, or we can go beat Duke in the Sweet 16 and go to a Final Four on our way to a Final Four. So, I mean, this team, they just seriously like. There's not a team you tell. I'm not going to say that there's going to be a game we can't win again. I'm not saying I won't not pick us, but like I'm done saying like there were multiple games this year where I just thought like they can't win that one, and they go out and do.
I mean, specifically this one in general.
Yeah,
Even preseason, this is the worst matchup for us on paper.
Yeah, I picked 2
without your
losses to
starting
Tennessee.
point guard, without your backup point guard, without your starting power forward. I mean, you can say Andrew Carr played if you really want to.
No,
I think we need to talk about why he was even suited up for this game. I don't even understand running him out there for 2 minutes, even if he says he was
Did they
good.
forget? Maybe they just forgot to
no
say.
sense.
Yeah, maybe they just forgot to say that he was out, and then they were afraid they would get a fine from the SEC, so they were just like, "Shit, Pope just threw him in there real quick. Like, let him run around, let him run up and down the court 1 or 2 times, and then they can't get mad at us." And that's how it felt.
He made his presence felt in that minute 29. Had a turnover and almost had a foul that quickly. We realized, how bad Andrew is on the side of the ball that quickly.
You could tell it wasn't his night, and that back's still not ready. But I mean, just let him and Lamont get healthy. If you tell me that they got to miss the next 3 weeks, but they're going to be ready to go come March, I'll take it. This team will find ways to win games to stay afloat.
Yeah, especially getting that from Kobe and Jackson. We've talked about those two specifically. If you get good games from them, this is probably the first game I think we've seen them together both have really good games and, be focal points of the offense. And you add in Amari Williams grabbing 15 rebounds.
Yep.
Imagine what happens when you do finally get healthy, if this team does get fully healthy. Like you said, they could lose to Fairleigh Dickinson. They could also beat Auburn in the Elite Eight. This team is so wildly inconsistent. While it, makes my heart pound and probably heart palpitations at the end of the game, I don't know if I trade in for anything else.
No, and you talk about it, and it's so weird, but like all these, like it always comes on like a road trip or something, but like you lose the game you don't really think they should, right? Like you lose to Georgia on a Tuesday night, and then you come out and beat Mississippi State that following Saturday. You come out, you lose to Vandy, who you should beat. Follow it up by beating Tennessee just 2 days later on the road. Like, Pope finds a way to, one, not ever get these guys believing they can't do it. Because I don't care if they were playing the Celtics tomorrow. I think Pope would have these guys confident that they could go out there and find a way to win it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. There's something that he's putting in the water there. I will tell you though, you just mentioned, games you shouldn't lose. Saturday's one of those games. I can't have a letdown on Saturday.
I can't imagine with that crowd that like these guys come out and are flat like that. Regardless, the other part of it, and we'll get into more of this, in the next one, but like the other part of it is just none of these guys played for Cal, so it's not like they're going to be overly anxious. They're going to be fine, and that place is just going to be rocking, and they'll feed off of it.
The disrespect for Grant Derbyshire.
Oh, my bad, yeah.
The disrespect for Grant Derbyshire continues.
Walker Horn, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the slander for these guys. I think they might have a fuel of hatred for Calipari, and who knows?
Yeah.
Coach Pope, he might let them in just to go off on them, show them what they're missing.
Yeah.
We'll dive in. We're recording tomorrow podcast of just a Kentucky-Arkansas game. Break down John Calipari's return to Rupp Arena, whether Boyers is going to boo, if he's going to stand in silence, if he's going to clap, whatever.
I can tell you what I'm not going to do, and that would be clap.
So we'll break it all down on the next podcast. Stick around, guys. We are going to
hang on. Can we vent about refs? We haven't vented about the refs enough, I don't think. I haven't got much, man. I just got This is not just about last night's crew. It's every ref in college basketball, and I watch a lot of college basketball. I got a cousin that plays for NKU. I go to a lot of Horizon League games. There is nothing these refs in college basketball love more than to have the entire arena watch them trot to the goddamn monitor in the final 2 minutes. They do it nonstop, and it's across every level of college basketball. It's sickening. The NCAA has got to do something about it. We can't have 38 minutes of really good basketball, really good rhythm, just to be derailed and have the final 2 minutes take 37 hours because they decided to go to the monitor for 4 minutes. Also, they called
personal camera, so I don't know what you expected. Once that started happening 3-4 years ago, where they had their own personal camera to look in to explain to the crowd what's happening. It seems like ever since then,
oh my God,
they go to the monitors a lot more.
And like a lot of times, I don't even feel like they make the right call out of it, and they're over there for 5 minutes. If you can't determine who the ball went out of in the first 30 seconds, just leave it the call on the floor and move on. Or have like the NFL and have replay assistants, and like they can do this real quick, and a guy at a monitor and within 10 seconds could say, out on whoever, let's go. Like it's absurd.
I think the SEC has enough money where they should be able to allow that. But I mean, even just SEC football officiating, you've seen, similar things there. So obviously they're not as caught up as the NFL is with like the instant replays with the guy who's just in the booth looking at stuff like that. Hopefully it's something to come for the future.
There's nobody that wants to make a show more about them than college basketball referees.
I mean, other than Jacob Boyers at like Max or Dickman's, other than that, nobody wants to see themselves on more of a show.
I don't know about that. I'm a pretty quiet and humble guy.
Speaking of a show, Saturday at Rupp Arena, 9 p.m. tip-off. That is going to be a show. February 1st. We've had it circled on the calendars.
We're going to have a lot to talk about tomorrow.
We'll have a lot to talk about tomorrow. Guys, stay tuned with us. We're going to be giving away a team signed basketball here soon. We'll let you know on the details about that. Go Big Blue. We're going to be here tomorrow to talk about John Calipari's return to Rupp Arena.
Absolutely. Go Big Blue. See you guys.